Well, hello guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And today I am going to make an informative video. So disclaimer that this video is going to be a long technical video, but it is very important thing to know. And today I will be discussing about the diver's watch. And not just any diver's watch, I would be discussing the ISO standard 6425 that certifies a diver's watch, and this video will be discussing about what are the things that a watch like this is tested with so that it gets the diver's sign on the dial or anywhere, or it can be called a diver's watch. So I will be sticking to very specifics of the ISO 6425 rating. So let's begin with the video. So the ISO 6425, as you know, is an international standard organization document which was first published in 1982. This document specifies requirements and test methods for diver's watches used for scuba, deep sea diving, saturation and mixed gas diving. The latest version of the document is ISO 6425 and it has been revised in the year 2018. This document has been drawn up to meet a global demand for diver's watches as a product and specifies marking which may appear on them. For example, this diver's 200 meter that has appeared here on the dial, as you can see. So as a specimen, I have chosen this Seiko SKX009J. This is the Japan version, JDM version. So this is the complete watch, as you can see. So first of all, I would like to really thank a friend from one of my watch collector group for lending me this watch. I would also like to, earlier I thought I would include the Citizen Pro Master, but due to some unfortunate events, one of my another friends could not ship that watch to me. But anyways, one watch is enough to, explain all the criteria for ISO 6425. So how to test the characteristics and what are the characteristics here? The very first characteristic is the waterproofness of the watch, and any such watch that certifies ISO 6425 should have a minimum water resistance of 100 meter depth or 10 bar of pressure. So if there is 100 meter, you just divide it by 10 and it comes as the bar pressure. So 100 meter divided by 10 is 10 bar of pressure. So this is how you back convert bar to meter and meters to bar of water depth. So let us see some technical details about the water resistance and how is it tested for it. The main tests of ISO 6425 waterproofness are following: that a watch along with all the attachments here, I will come to the everything, the crown and the case back and the lugs and straps, everything, but later. First of all, a watch in its entirety with the crown threaded back in the positions. If it is a diver's chronograph, then all the pusher thread locks should be in tightened position. So in that condition, the watch is to be immersed in 30 centimeter of water for 50 hours continuously. This is the first test. If it passes, then we move on to the next step. In this, the watch is immersed in 125% of the rated pressure with 5 Newton force on crown and pushers for a minimum 10 minutes. So if the watch is rated for, suppose, 100 meter, this is rated at 200 meter. So if a watch is rated at 100 meters, so 125% of the rated pressure means that it has to be submerged or pressurized to a pressure of 125 meters of water column or 12.5 bars with a 5 Newton of force perpendicular to the crown, or in case of chronographs, perpendicular force to the pushers, and it has to be continuously kept in that condition for 10 minutes. So this is mainly done in the lab with different attachments for generating that kind of pressure in lab and providing that kind of force on the crown and pushers. So the third test after that is immersion in 30 centimeter of water for 40 degrees centigrade then switching back the temperature of the water to 5 degrees centigrade and 40 degrees centigrade again for 5 minutes each. The transit time from temperature to temperature from 40 degree to 5 degree and back to 40 degree centigrade is taking place at 1 minute. So there should not be any evidence of internal condensation due to this temperature cycling. So this is a thermal stress test that is done on the watch under the water, submerged at a depth of 30 centimeter. So why is this done? Because of the temperature change, there can be many structural changes like expansion and contraction of the watch case, the case back and the case integrity, the crown and the case integrity, and all the other fixtures here like the crystal and the case integrity. So this temperature, because of this cyclic temperature changes, there should not be any structural changes and water seepage inside or any kind of vapor seepage inside and cause condensation inside the watch. So if the watch passes this, then there is one more cycling of pressure. This was a thermal shock test or the thermal cyclic test. The next test comes, and that is the pressure cyclic test. What happens that the watch is submerged at 125% of the rated pressure, right? 125% of the rated pressure. I mean, if the watch is rated at 100 meter, it is tested at 125 meters. If the watch is like this is rated for 200 meters, then you multiply it by 1.25, it comes around 250 meters. So this is how it goes. Then what happens that after 125% of the rated pressure, the transit time is 1 minute and the pressure is switched back to 0.3 bar, right? And again it is taken to 125% of the rated pressure, and then the pressure is released. So like this, it is left for 2 hours at 1 minute of rated cycle of pressure, so as to check what are the structural integrity condition under cyclic pressure loading. Is there any sort of change in the gasket, any sort of change in internal pressure with respect to the external pressure, and thus there should not be any sort of condensation forming inside or any sort of water intrusion inside. So static pressure test, then cyclic temperature test, and the cyclic pressure test underwater as well. That is something quite a torturous kind of test if we can see. Now if the watches are rated for 300 meter plus and mixed gas saturation gas diving or something kind of, this is a ordinary diver. There are other divers as well that are rated for 300 meter plus in ISO 6425. In that case, not this watch, in that case those watches are kept at 125% of pressure for 15 days, not minutes or hours, days, in helium enriched gas mix environment. And it is simply it is the pressure is suddenly reduced with 3 minutes of time. In that case, there should not be any kind of water intrusion or any kind of leakage inside. So those watches that are rated for mixed gas saturation diving, the testing on those are quite torturous. So if they survive, they can be further rated for ISO 6425. But for these normal diver watches, the step previous to this is more than enough for rating for ISO 6425 for water immersion test only. There are other tests also. Now if we can go for thermal resistance in air, after that what happens, everything is done inside the water. Now in air, the thermal cyclic test is done at 18 to 25 degrees centigrade and 125% of the air pressure and dynamic cyclic pressure, and just to check the integrity of seals and structures, right? It happens in such kind of way. Then again in normal air, the watch is kept in minus 20 degrees centigrade and it is left for 30 minutes, and then back to 60 degrees centigrade plus 60 for 60 minutes, and then back again to 2 degrees centigrade for 60 minutes. Then again you see the thermal shock test is done on these watches. So why are this done? Because under the water or under the oceans where professional divers go, there can be certain temperature variation, certain pressure variation in case of diving activities, or changes in the layers of water, because sea water, as you know, under the sea there are very harsh conditions, and the diver's watch should satisfy all those kind of temperature and pressure changes. So that is one of the prime factor of testing the watch under ISO 6425. Now switching on to the next segment of the video, the watch should be equipped with diving time indicator, right? So in case of mechanical watches like this, we have rotating bezel. This is the diving time indicator and can be used as a countdown timer for divers to understand that what is the elapsed time since they have dived inside, and these markers very well help the diver to understand that. But there is more to it, right? Rotating bezel in such analog display watches like mechanical diving watches or analog quartz diving watches, there has to be a digital display in digital diving watches, right? So it is very, very important that diving time indicator is present. Now this is the watch, this is the Seiko SKX009. If you see that there is another fully digital watch, that is the Casio Frogman. There is a diving time indicator which is a digital display. So you definitely, if you have that watch, you please go and check it out. The reading resolution on the diving time indicator here in the analog watches should be 1 minute or better. If you can see that the diving time indicator is graduated in 1 minute, or it could be better, but minimum requirement is 1 minute. If I have said meter somewhere, then I am sorry, it is 1 minute. So you can see it is a 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 seconds of graduation. It is as good as the markings that is inside, but the diving time indicator, that is the bezel, it should have 1 minute of graduation or better. Some watches have half seconds and some watches have more than that, but this is the minimum requirement. Now, presence of clearly distinguishable minute markings on the dial face. So if you have seen the inside, you can see that there in the dial face, not the bezel, inside the watch, the dial face has the clear minute markings given here, as well as the 5 minutes markers are there, which is loomed. So this is a very, very important feature. So here we have that, so this also qualifies, right? Adequate visibility in total darkness at 25 centimeter. So what we are talking about here is the luminous indices, dials, or all those kind of thing, the presence of lume, right? So as we know, Seiko, definitely, because it is not something, Seiko lume is the one of the most better and best lume in the market, and I think that everyone knows that. So if you have ever seen the Seiko watch from a distance of 25 centimeter, I think that you know how it is, and it is quite visible in total darkness from 25 centimeters. It is less than 1 feet. So definitely it qualifies for that. So what is done, that the lumed or photoluminescent deposit quality is tested in this. It is not just it should have, but what is the quality and how long it should hold. It should hold for at least 3 hours, 180 minutes after fully luminescent charging as per the ISO standard rating. So let me tell you that there is more to it. It is not only just defined by ISO 6425 diving, rather it has totally different ISO standard for luminosity, which is tested by ISO 17514. Latest iteration is 2004. So all the luminosity of the dial, indices, markers, etc. are governed by this ISO standard. Like the strontium aluminate based superluminova is there, and this tritium filled gas tubes are there, which is known as GTLS. There are LCD lighting of those digital watches, digital diving watches, is also governed by this ISO 17514. It is mentioned there that it shall maintain the luminosity for 180 minutes after fully charged as per the external light excitation as written in this ISO document. Understand? So this is the visibility in total darkness. Now it also advises visibility under low light condition in the light strength of only 50 lux, that the watch should be visible. the dive time indicator should be visible. The dive time indicator or the bezel should be visible in light as low as 50 lux. So 50 lux is not that low, but okay. For comfort, it should be visible as such. So it is to be noted like that, right? So all features like time, diving time, the minute markers, luminous hands, luminous tip of the seconds hand, etc. should be visible. Bezel marking for every 5 minutes, this bar bezel marking of the 5 minutes, it should be visible, right? Now there is one more feature, that the second hand should have a luminous tip or a luminous dot at the tail, this lollipop dot at the tail. This is the one stringent requirement of ISO 6425 that should continuously indicate the working of the watch underwater in darkness. So if you are wearing the watch, everything is visible, but if the second hand is not visible moving, then it does not serve the purpose of ISO 6425. So it is one of the prime importance. That's why the this Seiko SKX009 second hand is made such that it has a lollipop disc at the end, which is filled with lume, so that the working of the watch is totally visible. Now let us come to another feature, that the end of the life indicator should be visible. So if you see that the end of the life indicator, I mean if you want to say in the battery operated watches, the end of the battery life indicator should be visible under that darkness condition also. So there are some blinking displays in end of the life indicator in the quartz diving watches as well as the digital diving watches. It is not a stringent policy of ISO 645 in mechanical watches. However, there are some Orient divers watches that have this that the power reserve indicator that is luminous, so that is also visible in that. But for mechanical watches it is not hard and fast, but for digital and analog quartz watches it is required to be visible, right? So these all parameters, all the indications, because when you go under the water with a diver's watch is not a watch, rather it is an instrument. So all the parameters should be visible as such. Now let us go to the magnetic resistance, which is very, very important. And why it is important? Because under the water there are many tools that is magnetized. There are many underwater operations where high magnetic fields are present. So there has to be a magnetic resistance in order not to affect the movement so much. So how it is done? So it has certain criteria of magnetic exposure. The magnetic resistance is tested by 3 exposure to DC magnetic field at 4800 ampere per meter, and after that it needs to keep accuracy better than plus minus 30 seconds of a day. So what happens that this watch is kept under the influence of magnetic field for some amount of time, and then its timekeeping ability is tested. If it is worse than plus minus 30 seconds per day, the ISO 6425 does not qualify in that watch. In the enhanced version, it is taken up to 16,000 ampere per meter of static DC magnetic field, right? So it is according to that only. So there are many magnetic tests available in that, and diverse watches are well a magnetic kind of thing. So how it is done, right? So how it is done? So basically what happens that for magnetic resistance, either the entire watch movement is covered in a ferromagnetic shield, or the watch components are made with such an alloy that it is not affected by magnetic field. So such as the glucidur balance, the Nivacron balance, all these kind of materials are amagnetic alloys that are not affected by magnetic field, and the timekeeping of the watch is not affected. Now let us go to the shock resistance, which is in accordance to ISO 1413 latest iteration 2016. You are seeing how the ISO 6425 has taken its data and test procedures from different ISO versions. So how it is simulated in lab, this shock resistance. So how it is simulated, let me tell you that it simulates shock received by a watch from a height of 1 meter on a hardwood surface. So this watch is dropped from a height of 1 meter to the hardwood surface. I am not going to demonstrate this because this is not my watch. So definitely please don't ask me to demonstrate this. In practice, it is generally tested by two shocks, one at 9 o'clock here at this side and one at the crystal side on perpendicular to the crystal by a hard plastic hammer mounted as a pendulum. It is a 3 kg of hammer with an impact velocity of 4.43 meter per second. So these are all lab standard data. This is how it is tested, right? So how it is tested, let me tell you that the minute hand is set at 12 o'clock and the impact is given at 9 o'clock with the data stated as here. The minute hand should not displace for more than 5 minutes of graduation. If it displaces for more than 5 minutes of graduation, the watch disqualifies the ISO 6425 rating. Now after the second shock, that was the first shock that I have told, and after the second shock, the accuracy of watch should not be hampered beyond plus minus 60 seconds per day. First of all, the minute hand should not displace for more than 5 minutes of graduation, and after second shock, that is the flat shock on the crystal, the accuracy of watch should not be degraded beyond more than plus minus 60 seconds per day. The third shock is given perpendicular to the crown, and after that there should not be any mechanical damage, bent or breaking of the crown, right? And the free fall test is conducted with entire watch assembled along with the bracelet and or strap, and it is dropped on the case back, flat on the case back like this, and after that there should not be any kind of mechanical damage. So this is how the shock resistance test of the ISO 6425 is qualified. Now next, the next one is the chemical resistance, which is one of the very important thing of a diver's watch, apart from water resistance, let me tell you. And this is also conducted as per ISO 9227. Now the 9227 is chemical resistance for rusting, pitting and all those kind of things, and it is a very big document. Some parts of ISO 9227 has been taken for incorporation in ISO 6425. So what is done, that this watch along with the bracelet or the OEM rubber strap, there is one very big trivia I will tell you about this, but whenever these tests are done, always OEM bracelets and OEM rubber straps like this are considered for this. So the total watch assembled, totally everything fitting and fixture is done here. Every crown and the threads are in position. The entire watch is immersed in 30 gram per liter of sodium chloride solution. Sodium chloride is basic table salt. So 30 gram per liter simulates the exact seawater, normal seawater. All devices for waterproofness should be locked in position, like I said before, like crown, pushers, etc. So what happens that after that it is tested for this kind of any corrosion or any pitting or any such kind of things, right? So this is how the chemical resistance test is done. There are also accelerated chemical test and resistance the chemical resistances tests are done, which is like the salt fog test is there, and there are higher order of salinity tests are there that is conducted on this. So there should not be any kind of pitting, any kind of corrosion, and any kind of any kind of degradation on the case material or bracelet, lugs, crown, bezel, anywhere, because this test is carried out for 48 continuous hours. 48 hours. 48 hours under seawater is very rough for any metallic surface, but the diver's watch has to be prepared for that. So after this chemical immersion, all the components of the watch, such as the spring bars, the lugs, the buckle of the watch case itself, the unders of the bezel itself, the crown, the case back, all the threads, seals, gaskets, etc. Everything is tested for any kind of, verified for any kind of erosion and any kind of pitting or rusting. So how these things are taken care of? The diverse watch should be made with better materials like stainless steel grade 316L or 904L. This is I think 316L. Rolex is made with 904L. There are some other professional diving watches also. I think that the Zin divers are also based on the similar criteria. But the Zin divers are tested with DIN 8306, which is very similar to ISO 6425, but it is a German standard, right? So this is how it is done. Now there is a strap and band solidity. Not just the watch, but the accessories as well. This has to be tested like that. What is the integrity of the bracelet with the watch? That kind of thing. Or any strap or bracelet kind of thing with the watch. It is tested by applying force of 200 Newton. Not 20, 200 Newton to each spring bar in opposite direction. This pull, this kind of pull, right? And it should not have any damage to the watch, the lugs or the spring bars. So 200 Newton, if you divide it by 10, that is 20 kg of force. The 20 kg of force should not be there, it should not cause any kind of damage. So after that, this qualifies. Now there are many other aspects in the diving watch as well. Let me tell you one more thing, that we often go for aftermarket bracelets, correct? Especially metal bracelets or steel bracelets. If you are a professional diver and if you intend to use your watch in sea environment, saline environment, then kindly do not use aftermarket bracelets at the time of diving. You can use it in any other social event, or if you are wearing the watch for your office purposes or anything, then you are feel free to do anything. But when you are doing the diving activities, either put back on the OEM rubber strap or a very good quality rubber strap. But if you are using metal bracelet, then always use the OEM bracelet. Why? Because the material of the bracelet and the material of the case are similar. Because if there is any chance they are dissimilar alloys, or the alloy of the bracelet is bad quality compared to the alloy of the case, then it can act as a sacrificial anode and it can rapidly get degraded, or if the watch case becomes a sacrificial anode, the watch case may be degraded. Since there is dissimilar joint of two different metals, local electrochemical cells may form here in the environment of salinity and cause rapid chemical degradation. So be very careful what kind of aftermarket bracelet you are putting in on your watch. But it does not happen always. It always, you have to take care while in the case of diving and stuff. So you have to, be aware of that. So I think I have stated almost all the very important parameters that comes under the ISO 6425, and that is something very, very important to know how the watch is these watches are tested for. So if anyone says that this diver's marking are not that important, please know that these ISO parameters are not a joke. If you have already seen or heard from me what kind of tests are carried on in a diver's watch, right? So if you see divers marked on a watch, which is a genuine diver's watch, then you know what you are buying. Getting a diving watch certification is definitely not a joke, and it is very, very stringent policies to get a diver certification. And this ISO diver certification is a costly affair. Not every company can afford to get an ISO diver certification, because they have to send their watch, they have to pay the fee of setting the lab environment for testing this kind of watch. They have to hire a professional company that certifies the watches with the ISO 6425 certifications. There are many organizations that do that for International Standard Organization unit itself. So when you are buying a diver's watch, you know what you are buying, right? So there might be one question from many viewers that, yeah, ISO 6425 is a diver's watch, Seiko has it, right? Citizen has it, Casio has it. There are other brands like Mido, Satina. Then there are other micro brands like Scarfa. These are the brands that have this kind of ISO certification. Festina is there. So all these brands are there. Then why doesn't Rolex has it, the Panerai has it, or the Omega has it? Let me tell you that in the very beginning of the video, I have told that it was ISO rating ISO 6425 was first published in 1982. It is fairly very new compared to Rolex and Omega legacy. Rolex and Omega are making divers watches or the professional diving watches since I think many years before 1982, and definitely Rolex and Omega does not want any ISO document to boss them in their watchmaking legacy. Definitely not. They are masters in their own trade and they know what they are selling, and you know what Rolex and Omega policy are, right? So these watches are required for the bare minimum standard, and Rolex and Omega are surpassed those standards. If you test Rolex and Omega under ISO 6425, they will simply pass it, but that doesn't mean they need diverse marking on their dial, right? So this is I think how it is done, and it is very very important for us to know that how the diverse watches come into picture. So this was it. Thanks for taking your time and watching the video and listening to all my theory that I have compiled so far. So this has been a great time with you all. Do like, share and subscribe, and definitely please press the bell icon and get the more updates, more reviews, and thank you. Have a great day.